Hey, what's going on, everybody? Happy Friday. Hopefully we all survived those storms yesterday, because let me tell you, they were rocking and rolling really through a lot of the country. In fact, even up in Ohio, we had very impressive tornado damage. So again, this is just that active pattern that luckily we knew was coming, and we've been talking about it for really more than a week now. So that is the good news. The unfortunate news is, though, you never really know where a tornado is going to strike until it's pretty much about time for it to happen. So, of course, plenty of learning to happen in the meteorology field, and I'm sure by the time I'm older, we'll probably be way better than we are now with it. But nonetheless, with the technology we have, overall, forecast went pretty well for yesterday. Now, with that said, we still have more on the way today and tomorrow, and even into our Sunday as well. So now through Father's Day, still have plenty of severe weather to worry about. So, just because we got there yesterday, it doesn't mean you get to let your guard down for the foreseeable future. We also have some tropical activity to talk about, and I'm not going to touch on that too much, but I will briefly touch on that at the end of this video. We're also going to talk about the temperature swings coming up this week and a whole lot of rain, and who's going to get all of that rain here within the next 7 days or so. So that's kind of the plan for today's video. Again, if you're new here, welcome. Definitely consider subscribing, and if you're a regular, definitely comment and let me know that you're still watching, and hit that like button. It helps the channel out a lot. With all that said, though, let's go ahead and start talking about the weather. So looking at kind of satellite imagery here on our Friday morning, you can see the sun rising over the continental United States, and with that, we still have some pretty big time storms spinning away over sections of the Gulf Coast, really over kind of the Mobile, Alabama area this evening, or I guess this morning I should say. Also, we still have low pressure up here into the northeast, and this low pressure is going to be very important in today's forecast for the northeast, as we actually have a relatively substantial tornado threat up here because of that low pressure, and enough wind energy there and instability could lead to some isolated tornado warnings over through kind of the Chesapeake Bay area going into later today and into this evening. Other than that, kind of some nice, relatively blue skies with some high-level cirrus clouds through this kind of belt of the country here, from kind of upstate South Carolina back towards Knoxville, Nashville, western Kentucky, southern Illinois, up through the St. Louis area. So, not all of us are dealing with that bad weather right now, but plenty of us have already seen it, and of course there is still more to come. So looking at our hazards and radar imagery, these are those storms I'm worried about today into sections of the northeast. So we'll zoom in and we'll start there. Again, you'll notice we got some pretty strong cells kind of embedded here in this line of storms. And again, all of this is because of this low pressure here. And with it, it's going to bring this kind of line of storms up through pretty populated areas, through DC, Baltimore, Philly, even through New York City later this evening. So definitely watching that. Further to the south, again, very strong storms rolling off the Gulf Coast right now and getting into the Gulf of Mexico, kind of into the Mobile area, roll through Gulfport, Mississippi, even, kind of through the Panama City area as well this morning. Now, other than that, again, we were talking about the heat the other day in Texas. All of these are excessive heat warnings and heat advisories here through all of Louisiana, basically, and much of the Gulf Coast of Texas. So, again, although some of us have had a very nice, cool June so far, that's not the case for all of us. So if you're down here into the San Antonio, Austin area, down towards Brownsville and kind of the Rio Grande, definitely make sure that you're staying hydrated today, because that is downright dangerous heat indexes for a lot of folks in that part of the country. So looking at today's severe weather outlook, again, up here into the northeast is where we have one area of that marginal and slight risk. And again, there is a tornado threat there today, so definitely make sure you have a way to get all those watches and warnings. Other than that, we've got a pretty expansive area here from really kind of, Fort Myers in Florida, all the way up through sections of Colorado and Kansas. So, a pretty big area here to worry about today, but luckily, it doesn't look to be as severe as yesterday was, but again, that doesn't mean you can let your guard down. So, kind of some bigger cities that have a bit more of a higher threat today would be Little Rock, Jackson, Mississippi, southern Alabama, and kind of the Florida Panhandle, where I think this afternoon we'll get some pretty strong storms to roll on through. Now, as we get into tomorrow on your Saturday, another area that's pretty much the same as today, kind of down here into the southern tier of the country with a lot of the same hazards, which is really a little bit of everything, but especially damaging winds and some large hail. Now, as we get into our Father's Day, we have already a slight risk up here for Little Rock, kind of much of northern Louisiana, much of Mississippi, and much of central Alabama. And I would expect by the time we get into our Father's Day, this will likely be upgraded to an enhanced risk, maybe even a moderate by the time we get there, because we have a lot of ingredients that we're going to be working with here come Sunday afternoon and evening. So, for those Father's Day plans, definitely going to need to watch the forecast there for that. And I'll make sure to put out a video on Sunday morning so you have an actual Father's Day forecast. And that'll actually be a pretty early video, even earlier than this one, because I work at 10 a.m. on Sunday. So I'll probably have to record that at about 8 o'clock. So that should definitely be early enough to give you a good heads up on Sunday's forecast. Now, taking a look at future radar for the next 48 hours or so, we'll use the high-resolution rapid refresh model. Let me back this up to about what time we're actually at now. So this is about 11 noon today. Again, you'll notice we have this area of storms rolling off the Gulf as we looked at on our radar imagery. Also, this area of storms up into the northeast. Now, as we move this ahead into this afternoon, you'll notice we get another area of storms kind of fire off back here into Oklahoma and Arkansas, and also some of these storms to continue to intensify up into the mid-Atlantic. So again, as we move this into this evening, expect any of these storms to have the chance to become strong to severe. And once we get kind of into sunset time, about 8 o'clock tonight, Eastern time that is, pretty widespread showers and storms up into the northeast, again with the potential to produce some strong winds and maybe even, a brief tornado, mainly though down here into the northern mid-Atlantic, that threat is. Also, again, these storms will continue to kind of roll through this belt here into sections of Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee even. Seeing some of those stronger storms this evening as they roll on through that slight risk that we have. Now, as we go into tonight, we're going to really see almost pretty exact to what we're seeing right now on radar. So once we get into about 1 a.m., you'll notice another area of those storms rolling right through where they're rolling right now. So really a bit of deja vu for a lot of folks probably today compared to yesterday, just not quite as severe. Now, as we move this into our Saturday afternoon, again, we're going to just continue this flow here. So if you're seeing storms today and you saw storms yesterday down here into the south, expect the same thing today and tomorrow because the flow is really just kind of focused on bringing storms right through this kind of belt here back into that section of the country. Also, going into Saturday afternoon, expect more rain up into the northeast, although not really as severe this time, but still scattered rain and maybe even a couple rumbles of thunder during much of your Saturday afternoon as that low pressure kind of spins away right off the New England coastline. Then as we get into our Father's Day morning, as far out as this model goes, expect some pretty widespread rain back out here into, again, where we kind of have that slight risk. And as we go into Sunday afternoon, that will become more of a severe weather risk to worry about. So, again, we'll look a little bit more at that on our Sunday morning when we have that video. So the next thing I want to show you is just kind of the overall pattern for the week ahead. And again, this is why we're going to see a lot of rain, what I'm about to show you. So you'll notice we still have this kind of flow here that we were talking about a couple days ago. And with that, we're going to get another area of low pressure to ride along through there. And this is what's going to cause that Sunday severe weather threat. So you'll notice we have low pressure here over sections of Missouri come Sunday afternoon on Father's Day. And with that, we're going to be running into the risk of some severe weather in that slight risk that we looked at. But in terms of rainfall early next week, as I bring this ahead, you'll notice getting into kind of next Monday, Tuesday, that low pressure works its way over the southeast. But unfortunately, it's kind of really just going to sit there for a couple days. So this is into Tuesday afternoon, into Wednesday afternoon. It still hasn't really moved all that much. Into Thursday afternoon, it kind of finally tries to scoot off to the southwest rather. And, maybe we'll finally get some relief going into later next week. But early next week looks really like quite a washout in the southeast. And whenever I say washout, I don't mean it's going to rain 24/7, but it's going to rain every day for extended periods of time. So that is what we're going to be watching into early next week. Now, as we move this ahead and look at the actual radar imagery, again, we'll start here on Sunday afternoon where we left off. Again, this is where we're going to have those strong storms Sunday afternoon here into that slight risk that the Storm Prediction Center already has out. But once we get into our Monday, again, here's that low pressure just sitting over the southeast with plenty of widespread rain on Monday afternoon. Same thing Monday night. Tuesday afternoon, same thing Tuesday night. Wednesday afternoon, the exact same thing. Wednesday night, same thing. Thursday, we try to break up the pattern a little bit as this low pressure is going to kind of scoot off to the south and west. And some good news with that is that should help to bring some relief on the heat index side of things down into southern Texas and Louisiana. So that is some definitely good news for you folks. But we're going to have to deal with a lot of rain first into much of the southeast before we get to that point. And, as we get into even next weekend, again, that low pressure is probably still going to be hanging around somewhere. But where that is, we'll just have to wait and see. And again, hopefully it's kind of further to the south and west so we can kind of relieve some of you folks of that heat. Now, speaking of the heat and the heat index here, I'll move this into today and this afternoon. Today, again, well past 100, 110 degrees on the heat index here through much of southern Texas and even parts of Louisiana there. So it's going to be a very hot day for a lot of folks, and even into sections of the southeast warming up compared to what we were yesterday. Now, as we get into our Saturday afternoon, a lot of the same very high heat index into Texas and Louisiana, and more summer-like even for a lot of folks, and that will even continue into our Father's Day afternoon, minus those folks who have that severe weather to worry about. So, again, now through Sunday, a lot of folks are going to be warming back up, but once we get into early next week where that low pressure sets up, we're going to kind of be cooling back down a bit. So you'll notice a lot of these lower heat indexes over the southeast going into early next week, and that'll stick around for us folks in the southeast for a while. Again, just kind of a big blob here of kind of overall lower heat indexes into the southeast where we're dealing with that low pressure. Now, again, luckily, as we go into late next week, that low pressure tries to scoot off to the south and west, and with that could bring some relief in terms of heat through much more of those areas that are being impacted a lot now. So you'll notice, again, this is about a week out, but next Saturday, we're only getting up into the 80s, 90s, and 70s for a lot of folks into a lot of those places that are seeing pretty extreme heat right now. So we will definitely hope for that. Now, looking at the rainfall, again, there's a lot to come. So over the southeast, widespread 2 to 5 inches of rain. Some folks even more than that. So kind of down here into the Florida Panhandle, southern Alabama and Georgia, widespread 4 to 6 inches of rain. And same thing through kind of these upslope areas of the western Carolinas where, we're really prone because of elevation. Sorry, there's always a bug in my room, it feels like. Sorry, back to this. Into those upslope areas of the western Carolinas, again, also 4 to 6 inches of rain just because of the topography there, really helping to kind of wring out any moisture that there is available in the atmosphere. So I did want to zoom this in a little bit more just to give you a bit more of a breakdown on this. Again, kind of Greenville County, Spartanburg County, Pickens, Oconee County, Transylvania County, Henderson County, Polk County. Again, a lot of these areas into the western Carolinas where we have that upslope flow, pretty widespread, 5 to 6, even 7 inches of rain possible. And same story here for the kind of Big Bend of Florida and much of the Panhandle, as well as just kind of the Gulf Coast here in general, from Gulfport all the way down towards the Tampa area. Pretty widespread, 4 to 6, even 7 to 8 inches of rain mixed in there. Everyone else, again, pretty widespread, 2 to 4 inches of rain looks pretty likely for much of South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, and even a lot of Mississippi and North Carolina over the next week. So again, I did quickly want to touch on the tropics here. The National Hurricane Center in Miami already has a medium storm threat going into the next 5 days, and this is sitting at a 50% chance of development right now, and honestly, it's really probably higher than that. By the time we'll get through the next couple of days, we're very likely to have a storm out here into sections of the Atlantic Ocean, and you might be thinking, well, okay, this is kind of normal. Not really for June. A lot of the times during June and even July and often even early August, most of the storm development we get is more in kind of this belt here, right off the United States coastline. So this is going to be a bit rare, and the models, I will say, have this strengthening pretty well once it gets out into this region. The good news is, right now, a lot of the models kind of curve this thing back out towards Bermuda, but that's so far away, and there's so many different factors in that forecast that nothing is certain. But again, luckily with hurricanes, you get a lot more of a warning time than we do with severe weather. So that is some good news. Just want to quickly touch on this, though, because I'm sure if you don't see it in my video, you'll see it in somebody else's video or on some kind of thumbnail somewhere. So I just wanted to quickly touch on that. And again, it is a threat, but right now it's so far out there that we have plenty of time to monitor it. So again, a lot going on right now, a lot coming up within the next week. We got the tropics to talk about, we got some severe weather to talk about, and likely a whole lot of rain to talk about as well, and then even the heat index. So it's a very active June, which is kind of abnormal, I will say. So, hopefully this doesn't die down come this winter whenever I want some snow to talk about. Hopefully, we're not using all of our busy weather up right now whenever it's often dangerous weather. So, again, we will hope for that. But again, just make sure you're staying safe out there. Make sure you have a way to get those watches and warnings over the next couple of days. And definitely make sure you stay tuned for Sunday morning's video. With that said, though, I hope you have a great Saturday and the rest of your Friday as well. And I will see you all on Sunday morning.